So let's come back here and we'll go for managing the scope. Basically, whenever you start the project, the scope become one of the major thing, very major thing to be established actually. And most of the project go haywire because the scope is not well defined and nobody knows actually what is to be done. And if the scope is evolving, it's better that you use some kind of methodology like agile, etc., and use those kind of those kind of contracts. So we'll just see both the things, like how traditional methods and the agile methods. The first thing what we need to do is prepare a scope management plan. Now, what is a scope management plan? A scope management plan tells how a scope should be managed. It is not a scope. In a scope management plan, we don't define a scope. What we do? We define the how a scope will be managed. Like how a scope will be prepared means when you are preparing a scope management plan, a scope is not prepared yet. Therefore, we are preparing first how the scope should be prepared. What should be our process of developing a scope? How the scope will be tracked, like monitor, and how the scope will be adjusted. Right? Those things need to be put into the scope. So first we document how and then we do it. See, you consider it like that. In normal project, first you develop the design and then you construct it or develop it, correct? First you prepare the design and then develop it. Why you do so? Because design tell you how to develop. Design is not the product. Design is a guidelines for the product. If you make this product, then build this product, the product will satisfy your requirement. Similarly, when you are in project management and doing project management activities, you say, I am going and creating and sitting with the customer, gathering the requirement and defining the scope. Do I know how to define the scope? Like I am constructing something, do I have the design? If I don't have the design, what I'm developing? Similarly, when I'm going and defining the scope, if I don't know how to define the scope, what I'm defining? So scope management plan tell you how to define the scope. So what happens in a project? It may not be only project manager. There could be more people who will be managing the project. It may be a project management team. Even then, even if the project manager is himself is managing the project. Suppose I am myself making the product. I don't need design. I still need design, right? So that I can see completely how the product will look like and then I will develop it. The same way, if even I am the project manager, I'm going to define the scope, but I should first write how I'm going to define the scope. The first thing what project manager does, he creates a project management plan. Project management plan contains the management plan of a scope, management plan for time, management plan for cost, management plan for quality, management plan for risk, management plan for resources, management plan for procurement. All these management plan, what they contains, how to do that before doing that. Like I say, I have to prepare a schedule. What I will do, I will open up a Microsoft project and start developing schedule. But have I decided my measurement of unit will be days or hours or months or weeks? No, I haven't decided. So then what I'm going to put? I probably randomly put something. When randomly put, say, it may or may not meet the project requirement. I took week, and week is not precise enough to define the project requirement, project schedule. Then I have to make some changes later. It will generate the result. So better I should prepare a schedule management plan. There I will document that I will use Microsoft project. My measure of unit will be days, right? What the methodology of which kind of methodology I will use for scheduling. What will be my threshold when I'm tracking the schedule? How much deviation is acceptable? Suppose I have not defined this, and schedule variance has gone to 5%. Whether should I take action or not? I don't know. So I should define this in schedule management plan that my threshold is plus minus 5%. Is it is going up to 5%, I need not to take action because this is my threshold, within threshold. Going beyond 5%, I'm going to take action. So I have defined my threshold. I've defined how will I produce my schedule. Similarly, I have prepared the scope and plan. First of all, how will I define the scope? What all documents I have to produce? Generally, we produce a scope statement, WBS dictionary, right? And what should be the component? What should be the structure of these documents? Project to project, they may vary. The templates may require tailoring for a specific project. That all should I do. How will I going to measure the scope? How am I going to track the scope? When I will say it is out of the scope, in scope, how will I recognize it? I should write it down. This is called a scope management plan. Once I define the project management plan, which contains all the scope management plan, then I go ahead and start defining the scope, because I have already defined how I'm going to define this. So it says component of project or program management plan that describe how the scope will be defined, developed, monitored, controlled, and validated. So first I define the process, and now I am going to define the actually there. And I will be able to monitor. I will know which metrics I have to measure and when I have to take action. So a scope management plan contain that what should be the WB, how the WBS structure will be prepared, how I will prepare the scope statement, what will be the WBS dictionary, and what all this will be contains. What is the deliverable acceptance? How the delivery will be accepted? What is the process we will follow to go for the deliverable acceptance? How will I maintain the baseline of scope or changes in the scope? All these things I will document, and then I go ahead and defining scope statement. So it's a formal document that guide how to do it. Often we need just understand what is an expert judgment. Expert judgment is an expert.